ओमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यप्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, so we're continuing. Okay, last part of chapter 17.23. Om Tat Sad iti nirdesho brahmanastrividha smritah brahmanastena vedascha yagnascha vihitah pura. By the way, everybody needs to practice chanting verses. Okay. If anybody needs any help, you can please let me know. But we should all learn to chant verses. So either we can read the transliteration, which is the English type, or the Devanagari, or any other language which we are comfortable with, Hindi or whatever. But we should learn to chant the verses. It's very nice actually. Just chanting verses is very purifying. It's something that one is actually advised to do on a daily basis, is to chant verses. So you can all try. Happy to help in any way. From the beginning of creation, the three words Om, Tat, Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. So these three words, we've heard this Om Tat Sat. So these words have been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth, and they were used by Brahmanas while chanting hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices that were being done previously. It has been explained that penance, sacrifice, charity, and foods are divided into three categories: mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. So we already discussed this. Tapa, yagna, dana, ahara. Okay, so penance, sacrifice, charity, foods, specifically important amongst all the other things that have been discussed so far. And then there are more qualities which are going to be discussed in the next chapter. But so far, these four qualities have been discussed in the three modes. But whether first class, second class, or third class, the first class is Sattva Guna, second class is Rajoguna, third class is Tamoguna. They're all conditioned. Condition means they're all under the conditions of this material world, meaning they're all bound by this material world, contaminated by the material modes of nature. They're all conditioned, contaminated by the material modes of nature. When they're aimed at the supreme Om Tat Sat, the supreme person of Godhead, the eternal, they become means for spiritual elevation. So generally these this penance, sacrifice, charity, foods, they have to be aimed at the supreme. Otherwise they are contaminating. They condition us. They condition us in this material world. So this Om Tat Sat means that whatever this penance, sacrifice, charity, foods, everything has to be aimed at the Supreme. Then they become means for spiritual elevation. In the scriptural injunctions, such an objective is indicated. These three words, Om Tat Sat, particularly indicate the absolute truth, the Supreme Person of Godhead. In the Vedic hymns, the word Om is always found. So generally, it's not just about chanting Om Tat Sat, but it is the consciousness that everything that I am doing must be for the pleasure of the Supreme. That is the whole idea of this verse. One who acts without following the regulations of the scriptures will not attain absolute truth. Now see, the regulations of the scriptures are many. So this line itself is very, it's like very deep, right? So the regulations of the scriptures. So scriptures regulate various things for human beings, right? And One principal regulations are Varnashrama. Varnashrama Dharma are the principal regulations for human life, like Manusmriti. So these are all basic regulations for a cultured human society, right? Just give me a moment. I'm going to pause because my sister is here. Just 1 second. Yeah. So talking about the regulations of the scriptures. So first is actually Varnashrama. Varnashrama is for cultured human beings. If you don't follow Varnashrama, then it's Prabhupada writes in so many places in his purport saying that it's uncultured, it's animalistic society. Animalistic society comes to real human um, proper consciousness when Varnashrama is followed. Unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, we have no idea about all this. All right, so but we should understand that, and many devotees actually are in the, I would say, a little bit of illusion that bhakti without culture will take us to Krishna. No, actually, Krishna consciousness is a culture, right? So when we talk about all this, many people think, why all this? We'll simply chant Hare Krishna. We'll read Bhagavad Gita. We'll read Bhagavatam. Yes, please read Bhagavad Gita. If you read Bhagavad Gita, you will see all these in the purports of Srila Prabhupada. And that's the whole reason why, one question, obviously, uh, different people have different tastes for hearing, but the important thing to understand is whenever we are hearing anything, there has to be underlying clear understanding of what the tattva is. For example, right now, suppose say we hear this, right, saying that, hmm, Yudhishthir Maharaj did not want to tell a lie to Ashwath that, Ashwatthama was dead. And Krishna made him tell the lie. Now, if I just hear this statement, I can understand it in my own way, right? I can understand it in my own way because I have no idea what actually is being told or why this is or whatever it is, right? So the important thing is then we have to hear based from our acharyas saying that what it is. And so scriptures are given by the Supreme Lord, but they are presented to us by our acharyas. So it's very important that we don't try to hear anything like Leela. People are very enamored by hearing Leela, right? Leela has to be heard in conjunction with commentary from our acharyas. Because actually the Leelas, the Lord does all these Leelas to help humankind understand what is human life, right? When Krishna comes, he behaves just like a human. So the point is these regulations of scriptures, one is directly they are indicated in, various scriptures like Manu Samhita, Vedas, Upanishads, etc. Right? But at the same time, the Lord in all the Puranas, the Lord actually comes, especially as Rama, Krishna, to teach human society. So many things. So whenever we are hearing, even generally, people are happy hearing Leela. Right? Leela without Tattva is of no use. It's of no use. As in, no use, as in, we can't say no use. But Tattva is required because otherwise, if we think about Krishna as an ordinary person, or we have some wrong conception about Krishna, then we are not going to get the real benefit. Because Krishna said, Janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tattvataha. So everything has to be understood based on Shastra. If there's no basis for Shastra, it becomes sentimentalism. Prabhupada says, religion without philosophy is sentimentalism. So we have to base our complete understanding of Krishna consciousness on scriptures. It cannot be whimsical. So Prabhupada is making a very clear statement. Without following regulations of scriptures, we will not attain the absolute truth. We will attain something else, which we are thinking is the absolute truth, but which is not. Actually, we have a very simplistic understanding of spirituality, of the path of bhakti. That is why, unfortunately, many people are not taking Shastra very seriously. It's not easy to understand Krishna, especially, the path that we are on. It's not very easy to understand Krishna. Even great, I mean, like big devotees, they'll speak so many things, but it's very difficult to understand Krishna. That is why they don't touch upon, like Prabhupada said, right, that he never spoke about Krishna's intimate pastimes with general public because people will misunderstand. Because it's not just about knowledge, right? It's about purity. It's about purity. Our ability to understand Shastra depends on our purity, our sincerity, our submission to our acharyas. Only then we can understand. So please bear in mind that we should always have in mind to follow regulations of scriptures, not break regulations of scriptures, or not sideline regulations of scriptures, or not take a shortcut. Shortcut is not going to help us. It's not going to get us there. It's all long cut only. It's the fastest though. The path that we are treading is the fastest, but it still has rules and regulations. So we have to understand that based on Shastra. We have to hear anything that we hear should be based on Shastra. Mm. It might be very, very nice to hear some Leela, but Leela, if not explained, Leela has to be explained. So just think about this, right? Srimad Bhagavatam, when Shukadev Goswami is speaking Bhagavatam, he is not simply telling Leela and then, just remaining. He's explaining Tattva. Prabhupada is explaining Tattva. Why? Because we have to understand it based on Shastra, based on Acharyas. So please focus on Shravanam, which is mainly Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada's purport is what is helping us understand absolute truth, not otherwise. See, Prabhupada is saying he'll get some temporary result, but not the ultimate end of life. So, yeah, all this will become like Punya Karma and we might go to heaven. But what is the use? We don't want to go to heaven. We want to go to the spiritual world, isn't it? So, unless we understand Tattvataha, we are going to end up somewhere else. Prabhupada said many devotees in ISKCON will go to heaven because they will not achieve complete perfection, because they're not clear what the path is. So we will do bhakti, and bhakti is so it's piety also. So it will take us to the spirit, the Swargaloka, and we can continue bhakti there, right? But it's very dangerous. I mean, again, coming back to this material world of sense gratification is a very dangerous proposition, right? And especially if it is Swarga, and too much of sense gratification, too much of sense gratification. In Kali Yuga only we are like struggling to protect ourselves from sense gratification. Just imagine what will happen if you go to Swarga. So we'll get some temporary result. What is the use of that? We again come back. Conclusion is that performance of charity, sacrifice, and penance must be done in the mode of goodness. So these have to be done. And please understand what is mode of goodness. Mode of goodness means which is not in the mode of passion and ignorance. Right? Simply put. And it has to be purely in the mode of goodness. That means that it should just be done for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Performed in the mode of passion or ignorance, they are certainly inferior in quality. The three words Om Tat Sat are uttered in conjunction with the holy name of the Supreme Lord. So now Prabhupada is explaining how did uh, these three words come together, Om Tat Sat. What is the basis from the Shastra, from Upanishads, right? So he says Om Tat Vishnu. So from Om Tat Vishnu, oh, he's saying just an example. Okay, here. Whenever a Vedic hymn or the holy name of the Supreme Lord is uttered, Om is added. And this is an indication of Vedic literature. These three words are taken from Vedic hymns. Om ityetad brahmano nedishtam nama indicates the first goal. Om. So in this verse, this is from Chand. This is no, they're not said. Papa has not said from where it is. Then Tattvam Masi from Chandogya Upanishad indicates the second goal. And Sad Eva Saumya, again from Chandogya Upanishad, indicates the third goal. So from these three hymns, Om Tat Sat. So from Om from the first verse, Tat from the second verse, and Sat from the third verse, third hymn. Combined, they become Om Tat Sat. Formerly, when Brahma, the first created living entity, performed sacrifices, he indicated by these words the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, now many devotees have this confusion, Brahma and Brahman. Can somebody tell what is the difference between this Brahma? Actually, that's why when we pronounce, we have to say Brahma, or we say Lord Brahma, and Brahman. What is the difference?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. As per
Yeah.
my understanding, Brahma is a person, and Brahman is the entire things what is created by Lord.
Okay. Anybody else?
Brahma is the first creation of the Lord, and he who controls his own individual universe. And Brahman is Atma. All the
Okay.
Atma are Brahman.
Okay. Anybody else?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, you already. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, what is that, Preeti Mataji?
Yeah, Prabhuji already said Brahman is spiritual. We are all of it's just we as living souls, entities, members of highest Hindu caste or Brahman family. So we call them Brahman.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so Brahma is Lord Brahma, who's a demigod. He's the first created Jiva. So Brahma is a Jiva, right? And he's lives in the mode of passion. He's an engineer in every universe. Okay, Brahman is the effulgence coming from the body of Krishna. Okay, so this is called Brahman, and basically the whole of the creation is spiritual and material is coming from Brahman. So this Brahman has various meanings. It can mean jivas, it can mean universes, it can mean, it's basically everything, literally everything, because it's actually energy coming out from the body of Krishna. So generally we say Brahman means, based on the context, it might mean a jiva also. And to differentiate between Brahman, ordinary jiva, and supreme super soul or supreme being, we say Brahman and Parabrahman, right? But Brahman basically is the Brahma Jyoti. It's just bodily effulgence coming from Krishna. And this Brahman is the basis for all creation. Everything. Literally everything. There's nothing which is not Brahman. And Parabrahman is the source of this Brahman. Okay. So these concepts are very, very basic, that's why I keep, I want at least devotees who are hearing, who are attending these classes, we should understand Bhagavad Gita Tattva very clearly. We should not be confused, and it should be so clear that there should be just one sentence spoken. This is what it is. End of story, right? The concept, if the concept is clear in our minds, we will not struggle to express it. Because the concept is not clear in our minds, we tend to be so verbose about it. We try to use so many words, etc. We should be very crisp and clear about these things, right? And that is the reason why we have to read Shastra. It's a very simple thing. Brahma, Brahman. It's like literally ABCD for us, right? Because this is talked about multiple times in Bhagavad Gita. But anyway, it takes, yeah, just 1 second. It takes us time. And that's the reason why I request devotees to make notes, because then you have to make these points and note them down and then keep revisiting them every now and then. So that these things then register in our memory, at least to start with, and then consciousness, so that we become very clear. We should not be tattva brahmit. We should not have tattva brahmana, meaning illusion in tattva. We should have clarity in tattva. Yeah, Nakul Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu. There is one more word we will generally use, Aham Brahmasmi. Can you please explain?
Yeah, so basically this Aham Brahmasmi also is saying that I am Brahman. I am Brahman. Brahman means, again, I'm spiritual. Right? Because everything, like I said, everything which is, in fact, even material is coming from spiritual only. So we don't, Maya means looking at material world and thinking that it's separate from Krishna. That is Maya. Right? But everything is actually Brahman. Everything is spiritual. Because everything is coming from Krishna. How can something come from Krishna which is not spiritual? So when you say Aham Brahmasmi, we say I am the soul, I'm spiritual. Right? But I am not him. I am not Parabrahman. I am Brahman. Brahman is also refers to a soul. So that Aham Brahmasmi means I am a spiritual soul not belonging to this material world. It doesn't mean that I am Parabrahman. So Mayavadis say Aham Brahmasmi, so I am Parabrahman. So I am in illusion now. When my illusion gets cleared, I just realize that I am proper Parabrahman. But I am not Parabrahman. Parabrahman is Supreme Brahman, from whom all these Brahmans have come. That is Krishna. Right? Aham Brahmasmi means I am Brahman. I am a spirit soul. Okay. Okay. Formally, when Brahma, the first created living entity, performed sacrifices, he indicated by these three words the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the same principle has always been followed by disciplic succession. See, this whole disciplic succession business, right? Somehow we are forgetting this. In our mind, anything which is not non-mundane, right, which is not connected to this material world is spiritual, which is true. But unless it is presented by acharyas, we don't know whether it is a speculation, whether it is a mental jugglery, right? So even I see a lot of devotees discussing from various Puranas. Actually, Puranas, unless they have been translated, commented by our parampara, we should not refer to those Puranas. Because we have no idea Sanskrit is such a complicated language, right? Just like Bhagavad Gita, suppose it was not commented upon by Prabhupada and our previous acharyas, what would you have understood of Bhagavad Gita? Similarly, Puranas, while they might just look like stories, they're not just stories. They're historical occurrences, and there is significance for each and every occurrence. And only Parampara acharyas absolutely know this and can reveal it to us. So Prabhupada is, again, we heard this disciplic succession. It also applies to reading any book for that matter. Reading any book, right? See, in ISKCON, we have to understand, Prabhupada is our Shiksha Guru, right? For everybody. And for Prabhupada, it is the previous acharyas. So Prabhupada's books are based on previous acharyas. And Prabhupada has also said that, once we have a clear understanding of Prabhupada's books, we can also go and read previous acharyas. But if any, any information, anything that we are quoting connected to the Supreme Lord, if it is not based on what has been spoken by our previous acharyas, or at least another authorized parampara, it should not be some scholar who's translated, because I've seen so many scholars have translated all these various Puranas, etc. But then how will they understand intricacies of what was actually there, right? So we should avoid this. So whenever you read any book, first thing is you see which parampara it is. Like I keep saying, whenever you hear anybody, you first understand from which parampara they are. Now, ideally, if I am part of Gaudiya, Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, I should represent the acharyas in my line. That means whatever I am speaking should be absolutely 150% in line with my previous acharyas. Anybody for that matter, in any parampara. That is the role. That is why it's called disciplic succession. But if we are speaking from outside parampara, for whatever reason, we are misguiding the audience, because audience are blindly assuming that I'm speaking from the parampara. And this is actually a big challenge today, actually. If I see in ISKCON, it's a big challenge. Because many devotees, they are speaking, and that's is very appealing to many people, right? But may not be based completely on our parampara. And that's not recommended because it's going to deviate us. It's going to deviate us. Already there's a prediction that, ISKCON will deviate, and further in the future there'll be multiple, like ISKCON will split. There's prediction. And that's because of this. So there will be two sections of devotees who will be present, right? One is who's exactly following parampara. The other is who are not exactly following parampara. And that not exactly following parampara will end up somewhere else, right? They will not end up in the supreme truth. Like after Advaita Acharya, Advaita Prabhu's only one son, Achyutananda, was in line with him. All his other sons deviated. And Prabhupada says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that eventually these paramparas got destroyed because they just moved away from the authorized path. So please, please, please bear this in mind. Let's not become very naive. Prabhupada wrote I feel so, like hurt because Prabhupada has written so much to educate us, saying that how we should hear, what we should do. And unfortunately, we are just not paying attention to any of this. We are simply saying that whatever I'm doing is bhakti. Please remember disciplic succession. That is why even if suppose say we have to say about any verse for that matter, first we have to read Prabhupada's translation. Even we might be, we might be a scholar in Sanskrit, right? But we have to read Prabhupada's translation because Prabhupada as a Bhakti Acharya, not as a Sanskrit Pandita, as a Bhakti Acharya, he is presented the actual meaning that needs to be understood because Sanskrit is a complicated language. For example, the first verse of Bhagavatam, Janmadhyasya Yataha, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives 5 meanings. And Prabhupada decided to give only one meaning because the other 4 will not be understood by modern day devotees. First run, if you open Bhagavatam and you are seeing 5 meanings to the same verse, we will not be able to digest. So Prabhupada knows what we can digest. He's only given what we can digest. Now, if we jump over, Prabhupada always said, don't jump over to the previous acharyas. We should not jump over to previous acharyas. So which means that if you are trying to explain something, first we have to try to explain what Prabhupada has said. And then on top of it, if there is something else we can say, if it is presented by our previous acharyas, we can present. Bhagavad Gita recommends, therefore, that any work done should be done for Om Tat Sat, or for the Supreme Person of Godhead. This is the whole concept here, right? When one performs penance, charity, sacrifice with these 3 words, he is acting in Krishna consciousness. Right? So we can mention these words. It's good because it anyway represents Krishna. But the most important thing is actually for doing it for pleasure of Krishna. And doing it for the pleasure of Krishna doesn't mean I do any nonsense and just say Krishna Arpanamastu. I offer it to Krishna. That's not acting in Krishna consciousness. Acting in Krishna consciousness means knowing what Krishna wants and acting that way. That is Krishna consciousness, right? Krishna consciousness is a scientific execution of transcendental activities which enables one to return home back to Godhead. There is no loss of energy in acting in such a transcendental way. Right? So, actually, these purports are very beautiful, but we have to get into the mood of Prabhupada. When you get into Prabhupada's mood, only then we can understand what Prabhupada is highlighting. And like I keep repeating, I keep saying again and again, please give attention to each and every line that Prabhupada is written. Simple thing, like one sentence like this, one who acts without following regulations of scriptures. And we are so simple-minded, we'll think, okay, yeah, I'm following regulations of scriptures. We won't even think, am I following? Actually, the question should come, am I following regulations of scriptures? Not I am following. Because if I just assume I am following, then I've fallen into my own trap. And my mind has just trapped me. But if you ask a question saying that, am I following? Then possibly we can get the right answer. So don't get carried away. Don't get carried away. Please focus on Tattva. Tattva will help us make progress. Tattva is what will help us understand eventually Radha Krishna, not sentiments. I'm telling this based on, many experiences over the last few days, right? So let us base it on Tattva. And please, no devotees here should take it personally, because I'm not basing what I'm saying today on. I have conversations with many devotees. I have conversations in temple. I had conversations with temple management. So there are so many things that happen behind the scene. And this is a sum total of all that. Okay, it's not some individual conversations I've had, because I've had conversations with many of you over the last few days, right? So don't assume that it's you alone. It's a combination. And I want to just highlight the fact saying that we have to focus on Tattva. If Tattva is not strong, we cannot understand Rasa. Please understand this. And I'm happy to explain what this means. Like I said, Krishna made Yudhishthir Maharaj tell a lie. Without understanding Tattva, we will not understand the Rasa behind. We will not understand. Tattva means saying that the Acharyas will say, what did actually Krishna do? What did Yudhishthir do? And then we'll understand eventually what is the Rasa. Oh, Krishna is protecting Pandavas. That is a Rasa. But to understand that Rasa, first we have to understand, okay, Krishna didn't make him tell a lie. Right? So, so the point is that it's just not, unfortunately, this entertaining. It's not entertaining. It's about Tattva. It's about knowing clearly, because Supreme Lord cannot be understood very cheap way. We cannot understand him very cheaply. He is supreme. We cannot understand him a single person. I keep interacting with so many devotees and I keep getting confused saying that what is this person? It's very difficult to preach, unless Krishna reveals from within. It's very difficult to understand people and their behaviors, and it takes so much of time and effort and patience. And how can we understand Krishna? How can we understand Krishna? Unless those who know Krishna reveal him to us. And who knows Krishna? Acharyas know Krishna. They will reveal what Krishna is. They will reveal what Radharani is. Then we can understand. But I am simply hearing beautiful, nectarian, people say nectarian pastimes. Yeah, but without understanding who Radha and Krishna is, what nectarian pastimes are we hearing? What is the image that is being built in our mind? So Tattva is very, very important. Please don't ignore Tattva. Okay? Okay, I'll stop here. If anybody has any questions, kindly ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. And in this verse, we see that Om Tat Sat. Is it all come from Chandogya Upanishad?
Yeah, looks like, except for the first one, Prabhupada has not quoted the reference. Om.
Is there Rig Veda? Bhagavad Gita is Veda.
Nah.
So I was just
everything is Veda. Upanishad is also Veda only. All Upanishads are part of Vedas. But he's not said which Upanishad it is coming from. He just quoted for the second and third, at least from the purport. But anyway, it will be based on some Veda. Yeah.
Yeah, like in detail, can you just explain? Like it is the first role, second role.
Yeah, next three verses will explain. Next two verses will explain.
Yes.
Next two verses will actually explain what this Om Tat Sat actually means.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, you told understanding Tattva is important than understanding the Rasa. I mean, first that has to come, then that. I mean, without understanding the Rasa, how will someone understand Tattva, Prabhu? Like,
No,
if someone, example, if someone goes and tells them philosophy instead of even telling, I mean, whatever the bhav that is, if they don't know the bhav, if they just know the philosophy, there is no, I mean, that, that eagerness or that listening. I mean, I'm just telling.
No, absolutely.
But once they find what, I mean, in the bhav or in the way they explain, it is like
wow. It's like wow.
Yeah,
When you
then
go,
there is an
wow.
see, that's just a simple story or just a simple thing. It is so amazing. And how amazing will the philosophy be? Like, why can't we take that in that way?
Okay, so very good question, right? So when you say bhav, can you explain what this bhav means?
Uh, the
Bhav
feel.
today, feeling. Bhav today is feeling, right? Now, see, please understand that we cannot have mundane feelings and understand Krishna. We cannot have mundane feeling. So this kind of Leela Shravan is good. Like you said, it will attract devotees to Krishna consciousness. Absolutely. It cannot be our complete journey. It's the beginning of the journey, right? So which is why yesterday, I was saying, yeah, all kinds of features are also there, and it's possibly required because some people will speak rasa, and that rasa, though people don't understand anything about it, right? They're just like, oh, so nice, the way the person presented, the bhava of the person. Now, what is bhava is actually we have no idea. It's just, you're just using it in a very mundane way. Bhava is the last step before prema. And bhava is such a technical thing. Actually, no, very few people on Bharat Maharaj reach bhava. So it's not that bhava, right? It's so we'll just call it emotion, right? It's a feeling that is there that is getting aroused, which will possibly attract us, which is absolutely required, right? But we cannot end there. That is the whole point I'm making, right? That should be an impetus only. It should just be a trigger saying that, wow, it's so nice. But how much, are we even satisfied with this? We keep on hearing Leela, Leela. How many people in ISKCON, after hearing this Leela and getting inspired and, this one, actually go into Tattva and understand Tattva? And how many years do you want to hear this? How many years one can go on hearing this rasa or so-called rasa? I'm saying because the speaker might be speaking rasa, the hearer might not be able to understand it at all, right? It's just my feeling of what is being spoken. I can keep hearing that throughout my life, and I might still not be, motivated to enter into tattva. So, see, if you see our previous acharyas, even Shukadeva Goswami, you take any of our previous acharyas, nobody just presented Leela without Tattva. Nobody. Nobody. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Prabhupada is such a, he is called Rasa Acharya. Okay. And his rasa is explained in the form of tattva, meaning how to understand. See, when we say rasa and tattva, we should understand. Rasa is a feeling, right? Is an emotion. But acharyas tell us what should be the basis for the emotion, or how this emotion should be understood. If we don't know that, then we will develop an emotion in our own way, and our own emotion might not be the right thing. So I'm not ruling out saying that, and that is the reason why there are festivals. And when there are festivals, we talk about rasa, but we talk about leela, tattva as well. Yes. Yesterday is what we were discussing. You said, if 1 hour somebody gives a class on tattva, people will be sleeping. But if somebody is giving a class on rasa, people are happy, enjoying. It's fine, but this is required to pull people. I was hearing one lecture. My Guru Maharaj is Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj was saying that yes, so many devotees are very attracted to hearing all the new gen speakers. They are attracting a lot of crowd, which is very good, right? But actually, then subsequently they have to be mentored. They have to be elevated. Once they come into Krishna consciousness, being attracted by some of these, speakers, then somebody needs to take care of them and then elevate them to the stage of pure devotional service. Right? So, only the first part will not help us. And if somebody hears 1 and 2 together, rasa and tattva together, then there is more possibility that we will relish the right way. Relish means is a wrong word. It's like relish meaning the soul suprasidati. The soul is experience happiness, and it's not a mundane experience. It's not a mundane feeling. Actually, the rasa is related to the soul, not to the body or not to the mind. But today, when we experience rasa, we are experiencing with the mind, because we don't know how how it has to be experienced, because only if it is a clear spiritual understanding will the Atma be pleased. Anyway, it's a very deep topic. Please understand that these things are okay to bring us into serious Krishna consciousness, but they cannot be the end. They're not the end of the journey. The end of the journey is tattva mixed with rasa. That is the end of the journey. I mean, I wouldn't say that actually. The beginning can be rasa, then it is serious tattva, and then that tattva will take us to the right rasa. So when you say madhurya rasa, I mean, just think about this, right? Maybe I'll explain it this way, right, for easier understanding. Sorry, I'm taking time, but this is very, very important because I'm pretty disturbed about this. See, for example, Radha and Krishna Leela, right? Now, Radha and Krishna Leela, we might just think that, oh yeah, the Radha Rani felt like speaking like this, she spoke like that. Radha or some gopis felt like doing this, so Bhagavatam we hear, like gopis prayers and Ras Leela, this, that, and all that, or so many things we are hearing, and we might just be thinking, saying that these are all just whimsical, as in whimsical in the sense they are feeling like doing that, they are doing that. No, Rupa Goswami then comes and gives us tattva about this rasa, saying that this is the cool mood called mana, for example. Now when this feeling called mana is there, this is how these are the qualities which are demonstrated. So this is tattva. So when we should understand, okay, if some devotee is demonstrating these feelings, that means this is the result of a feeling called as mana in the devotee's heart. It's so detailed. It's not like, okay, like I felt like speaking like this, so I spoke. So yeah, some gopi felt like speaking like this, so she spoke like this. No, there's a basis to understand what was spoken, why it was spoken, what is the tattva behind that. Oh, then we can understand, oh, okay. So, this devotee is in this mood, and hence he or she is speaking like this. Why we need to understand this? Because see, we have to go to Goloka. Please understand this. If you have to go to Goloka, we eventually, Raganuga Bhakti means following the footsteps of one of the Vrajavasis. Right? Now, if you have to follow footsteps of Vrajavasi, we have to understand them how? By hearing about their behavior, by hearing about their service. Now, if we are hearing about that person and how that person is serving Krishna, if we don't understand tattva behind it, how can we actually understand it at all? Then we'll just interpret it the way I want. For example, I'll give you an example, right? I'm just going a little bit deep because this question was very important. Good, Akshita, you asked. Right? For example, Lalita Sakhi is always fighting with Krishna. But 50% of the time she fights, 50% of the time she doesn't. How will we understand this? And it's beautiful rasa. I mean, like somebody is narrating a pastime and they're saying, oh, Lalita Sakhi spoke like this. And, what will we understand? We'll understand, oh, what is this? Once she speaks for Krishna and another time she speaks against Krishna. And then we are confused saying, what is this? I mean, why? Or how do I understand it? We can't understand because it's beyond logic. Then we have to go to Acharyas. Acharyas say, hey, see, Lalita has these qualities. This is how she serves Radharani in these qualities. And these qualities sometimes require her to be for Krishna, sometimes require her to be against Krishna. Then you say, oh, okay. That is why Lalita Sakhi is like this. So while we might start off with, oh, beautiful pastime, oh, okay, Krishna Janmashtami, somebody came and gave some beautiful nectarian pastime. Very good. Very good. If it can help us get fixed on Krishna consciousness. But you also think about this, right? Prabhupada, in all his years of preaching, on a Radhastami day, he said, our bread and butter, I am not this body, I am spirit soul. Why Prabhupada did like that? Prabhupada didn't know, is it, that people will get attracted by Leela? So we should think about these things. Acharyas have done certain things in certain way to teach us. If we tread that path, it will be most beneficial for us. Most beneficial. Not that otherwise it won't be beneficial. It will be most beneficial. It's okay if somebody is getting attracted by, a brilliant presentation by a speaker. Actually, it's not a presentation. It should not be clapped. Nobody should clap. It's a service done. How can you clap for a service? And clapping is, again, a Western culture. If you want to appreciate, and who can we appreciate? You can appreciate a devotee who is equal or below us. Only them we can appreciate. And that is done by saying sadhu, sadhu. This is Shastra. This clapping is Western craziness. And we cannot appreciate a devotee who is superior to us. I mean, and I'm just saying, like, we are just not understanding. Unfortunately, we are not understanding. We are simply, for us, it has become like coming, ISKCON, and it's just some entertainment value. It's not going to help us get Krishna. I'm very sorry to say. It's not going to help us get Krishna. Krishna is not so cheap. Krishna will not come by so cheap. We need tapasya to achieve Krishna, not enjoyment. Enjoyment is not going to give Krishna. When we do tapasya, then we'll get Krishna, and then we'll get enjoyment of the soul. So anyway, I'm going to end here because I can go on and on. But the point is, please don't stop there. If something you're getting attracted, please, it's fine. Yeah, I'm happy that somebody is getting attracted by hearing these pastimes. But don't stop there. Come to Tattva. If you don't come to Tattva, there is no basis. It will just remain sentimentalism throughout our life. Will remain sentimental. And at some point of time, we might just go off because something else happened which just killed my sentiment. Something in ISKCON, so many crazy things keep happening, right? But we should be fixed, and that fixed nature will come only when we are basing our understanding on Tattva. Yeah, Nakul Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. There is one question, Prabhu. Like I just saw in Instagram, like in that one person was telling that the word Om, the Shiva will be constantly chanting the word Om. It will be coming from the body of Shiva. Is that something like that you would like to say, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
No. See, Om is a Vedic utterance, right? It just represents Krishna, like Prabhupada. No going to explain, right? Om is not different from Krishna. Already, Krishna's opulence, Krishna said, Om represents me. What Shiva does, he can be chanting Om. That is why, when you hear about all this, anything people speaking like this, we have to know the reference because these scriptures are endless, right? If there is some reference from something that our acharyas have quoted, then we can understand and accept it as true. I don't have anything to comment because I've not heard any of our acharyas saying Shiva chants what. So I can't comment on this. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Anybody else has anything to say? It's already like 9:20.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I have a question. Do we have time for that?
I have time. I don't know what others. Go ahead. Anyway, I'm recording. Yeah.
Okay. So Prabhu, you told about Brahman. So impersonal Brahman, localized Brahman, and person Brahman. How is that related to the word Brahman and effulgence, which you told, Prabhu?
The first Brahman is generally called Brahman, as in the Brahma Jyoti. Brahman is Brahman. Is same as what was the first word you used? Impersonal Brahman. Impersonal Brahman is what is generally called Brahman, right? Now, localized Brahman is a terminology that Prabhupada uses, but we should just not get confused. Localized Brahman just means that Brahman who is local in the heart of a jiva, who is Paramatma. Right? So, localized Brahman just simply means Paramatma. If you are getting too confused with his nomenclature, don't worry. Right? You just take everything is Brahman, like I said, Brahman, Parabrahman, right? So everything can be talked about as Brahman. That is why these impersonalists, they say everything is Brahman. So which means everything is energy. They think Krishna is also Brahman, yes, but they think Krishna's form is temporary, right? But yeah, it's Brahman, but he's Parabrahman. So impersonal Brahman is Brahman. Localized Brahman is Paramatma. So we have a clear nomenclature, right? And Parabrahman is Bhagavan, Krishna. They're all Brahman. But we also have specific names, specific roles that they're playing. And then Atma is also Brahman. That's why I said everything is Brahman. Everything is Brahman. But there is distinction. Brahman, Parabrahman, Bhagavan. and so on.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, is that okay? If anybody is disturbed by what I have said, please kindly forgive me. My idea is to enlighten us in terms of what we are expected to do. And this is based on what? Who am I to say all this? I'm just basing my understanding on Srila Prabhupada's books, and more importantly, my own Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, because he's very, very particular. The devotees understand Tattva. Because this is where, unfortunately, ISKCON is headed, and this is not the right path for ISKCON. And this will result in us tomorrow standing in front of other sampradayas and we becoming a laughing stock. It's a very sad thing. Already it is happening. ISKCON approves, female Diksha Guru, and other sampradayas are laughing at us, saying that what is this? You guys are making fun out of Vaishnavism. And this is a result of just deviation, just simple deviation from Prabhupada, nothing else, from our previous acharyas. So, we'll become a laughing stock. ISKCON will become a laughing stock. Today, people respect us because Prabhupada did so much. He's changed the whole world. And the way we are heading, we'll just remain sentimental value. I'll tell you, for example, Madhvas, Kantimala, simple thing, right? Kantimala. Madhvas don't allow people to wear Kantimala. They have to really, somebody validates, checks, and only then gives Kantimala. For us, it's available in the counter. Yesterday I was at the counter, some people came and asked me Kantimala. I asked them, are you eating onion garlic? Are you eating non-veg? Do you follow 4 regulative principles? I said, no. I said, okay. I then told Rakal Prabhu was in the counter. I said, Prabhu, see, if you want to give, you can give. But I won't give. Because in our center in Hulima, I keep all the Kantimalas with me. And if somebody comes to the counter, I ask them, please come. Please tell them to speak to me. And I'll ask them and saying that this is what the rule is for wearing Kantimala. It's not decoration. It signifies certain standard of practice. And this was being followed previously. But we are not following these. So simple things like that, right? And we lose our value in modern Vaishnavism, modern culture, modern Vaishnav societies. Anyway, okay. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. 30 minutes became 1 hour. Apologize for that. We'll end here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayascha patidana bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Koti Vaishnavandaki jai jagat Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat.